is May the 23rd, Freedom Square, Freedom Plaza, Kharkiv. Pretty breezy, but I'm going to try to do a video from up here. Otherwise I'll look for a more sheltered spot. But what I was trying to give a sense of in the previous videos is the vastness of the Freedom Square from one end to the other, and how windows were blown out all the way across the plaza by the massive explosion that struck the base of the administrative building that I'm aiming towards with the camera right now. And yet that building, and of course that was one of the first obvious strikes against the civilian target that the Russians perpetrated. So one of the first obvious war crimes that was there for the world to see, and the first of many, including in Kharkiv. But and a number of people died and lots of injuries in that one explosion. But that building actually survived. The columns were all intact. I did some videos from right beneath it, and I think it's restorable. I think to be able to bring that one back. I'm looking forward to 2 years' time coming back here and seeing that building back in all of its previous glory. But Kharkiv was hard hit. It was, you see the steel track marks in the asphalt where the Russian tanks actually came through, and there was a lot of street-to-street fighting. And I've located some of the streets that I remember from the early videos from late February and early March when fighting was actually in the streets of Kharkiv. So they did their best. This was the city that the Russians did their best, did their worst to try to actually physically enter and conquer, and they never fully occupied it. They were driven out. I think by the time they withdrew from the Kiev area, I think they were already out of the city center. So I'll go back and refresh my knowledge about how the campaign for Kharkiv went. At this point, the fighting, you hear a lot of explosions still, and I believe that a lot of what you hear typically routinely going around town and from one's hotel is outgoing artillery from the artillery bases that the Ukrainians have north of town here towards the Russian border. The Russian border is only about 20 miles away, and they've got artillery now and heavy weaponry that can reach all the way from their positions to wherever the Russians may set up on this side of the border. But apparently there's no quit yet in the Russian forces up here. I think to some extent they may be trying to hold as much of the Ukrainian forces in place up here and away from the fighting further south. But at any rate, they're still perpetrating their nonsense up in this corner of the country too. But the Ukrainians have effectively pushed them far back out of the city and closer to the Russian border. The city itself is a city of about 1.5 million people, and it's pretty quiet. Unlike Kiev and Odessa, where you see a lot of street side activity and shops and stores and little restaurants and cafes open. Kharkiv is not at that point yet, and I think probably their population is, maybe a quarter, a fifth of what it was pre-war so far. So you also see evidence of the street-to-street fighting everywhere, and I'll be getting around to all of the further corners of the city to see what all happened here. I think the most recent strike that made it into the news cycle, I think that was in a suburb that's really quite some distance from Kharkiv, based on it. I do see a name of that town also has a segment of Kharkiv by that name, but I believe that the cultural center that the Russians targeted a couple of days ago, I believe that's far out of town in a suburb out of Kharkiv itself. Um, but the biggest, just getting around. There's gas lines. There's real gas shortages. Gas is expensive. So just getting around, and I think you can see people coming back and cleaning things up, but I think the general sense of it is that it's a little early for the general population to be coming back to Kharkiv and trying to put their lives back together again. Kharkiv, May the 23rd, 2022. Slava Ukraine.